So it isn't the official launch season yet until TaylorMade launch their new lineup. Welcome to Qi35. So it's always an exciting time when TaylorMade release their new lineup of drivers. Loads of technology, as you'd always expect from TaylorMade, to sort of talk through, and a little bit of a different story yet again. We've got 4 heads that they are offering. I've got 3 of them. The 4th head is the Max Lite, an incredibly light driver, light head, light shaft, light grip, really aim for those slow swing speeds. I haven't unfortunately got that in my hands today. That might come at a later date. So we've got the standard Qi35 driver, pretty much the one that most golfers will probably get into. We've also then got the LS, or the low spin version, for maybe a faster swing speed, trying to reduce spin. And then of course we've got the new version of the Max, which is the 10K, the most forgiving of all the options. And I'm going to hit that one as well. Okay, so let's just quickly run through a little bit of the technology and the real sort of talking point around the new Qi35 lineup. So they've done a lot of internal weight positioning here and balancing of the club head. So again, with loads of carbon that we're sort of seeing, multi-material, we've got titanium, we've got carbon, we've got steel, we've got tungstens. There's a lot of materials going into these drivers, and obviously visually when you first look at this, it's like carbon galore. All that sole is very much carbon dominated, and then you flip it over into that stunning looking crown. For me, carbon effect, it looks fantastic. I really like the colour of this. And it's really sort of carbon overload in a way. And obviously we've still got that carbon face, a new generation, but which is now black. So perfectly positioning centre of gravity is really what the talking point is, to maximise forgiveness, but also keep the product in a low spin arena, which is typically a difficult one for these golf club creators in terms of if they want forgiveness, the spin generally gets into a high area, and the vice versa. If they move that CG sort of down low forward, they get the spin down, but then they have a sacrifice of losing a little bit of forgiveness. TaylorMade are saying they've really sort of found a sweet spot to maximise forgiveness as well as keeping this product in a low spin area, which obviously creates a little bit of distance. Okay, we'll run through a little bit more of the technology as we go through these shots, but we're going to start off the standard Qi35 to kick things off. 9-degree head, and as always the playing position is really important for me. So first instinct, putting this down by that golf ball. Bear in mind this is the standard Qi35 head, not the Max. This thing looks huge. It's the first thing I really sort of noticed when I got it out of the wrap and popped it down. I thought, wow, that head looks huge, really sort of big from around that front to the back. And I think it's maybe more that lighter grey carbon look probably just gives it an impression of looking a little bit bigger. I mean, confidence inspiring, yes, absolutely. I mean, that just looks huge behind that golf ball. Just got that little TaylorMade logo in there, but beautiful look of that sort of satin grey. Got a little bit of a shimmer to it, but looks fantastic behind that golf ball. Okay, there's a nice strike, good ball flight, great sound, great feel. First thing I can sort of see on that particular shot, and a really good low spin number there, 2,200, and running out about 296, so good start there. So just flipping this club head over, obviously we've got all that carbon, but we've got 2 adjustable weights here. We've got one at the front, one positioned at the back. So we've got a 3-gram weight and also a 13-gram weight. They can be flipped around, so some subtle adjustments here of moving CG location forwards and backwards, again just helping to really pinpoint spin location for certain golfers, and maybe just really fine-tuning a flight window there. We see the speeds pocket behind the face. We've seen that for quite a number of generations now. And then the surround of the sole of the driver at the front is high polished in like a sort of a grey look, which I think looks really good. The only thing I would say a little bit is then when you flip it over into that playing position, that polished section just travels around the front of the hosel, and it's a bit of a contrast between that beautiful carbon matte against the really high polished hosel section. So when you put that down there, I don't know, it just draws me eye to that really high polished section. Now, if you play in the sunnier climates, you get that sun in the wrong area, I think that might just reflect back. That's my only sort of point there. That I feel that should have just been a little bit more matte finish there, just to match in the head a little bit more. Oh, it's beautiful flight. Really great sound to that. You know, it's that carbon sound that we're sort of typically used to now with a little bit of TaylorMade. So obviously talking about the famous carbon face, that is the 4th generation now of the carbon face with twist faced in there still, even though it doesn't tell you that on the club face. It has got the twist faced still in there, but now the carbon is black, which I think is a good thing. You know, the red I was never a huge fan of. It wasn't too bad, but very much sort of stood out. You know, the first launch of carbon, make a statement about it. You know, like when they launched white-headed drivers. Huge statement. You saw it on tour, very visible. They're not daft, are they, when they come into this marketing element. I think now that everybody understands it's carbon, we saw that dull down to a dark blue in the Qi10. Now we're back into a black, which looks fantastic against that grey crown. We've got this sort of grey visual top line there, which was etched in, just sort of frames the face a little bit more, helps a little bit with that alignment, which I quite like. Oh, that's a nice flight. That's a nice flight. Again, I've got the option here, moving that 13 gram weight from the back, which was where I've got it at the moment, forward. Maybe just try and get that spin down. There's one I hit quite nice before, that spun around sort of 3,000. Probably like to see that a little bit lower. That was a good strike. So I'd probably be moving that forward a little bit more just to help to drop that flight down a little bit, which actually I'm going to do now for the next couple of shots. Right, I've just switched those weights around. So I've got that heavier weight now forward. So let's just see if this gives it a slightly different flight. Maybe expect this to be a touch lower, a bit more penetrating, maybe a little bit less spin. Okay, that's an interesting one. That felt a little bit low in the club face. Yeah, it was a touch. I'm interested in that spin. Yeah, that's pretty good. For low strike, typically going to see that spin climb up with that gear effect there. And I think, you know, this is one of the things that TaylorMade have done in this driver. They've lowered that centre of gravity down. So, you know, as you miss it low in the face, especially with that weight more forward, it just controls that spin a little bit. Okay, so same shaft moved over now into the Max. So the Max is obviously the new version to the Qi10 Max, which is the 10K version. So 10K is that ultimate forgiveness. Last year was the first time TaylorMade got to that 10K mark, and they've obviously reproduced it now in the Qi35. So if you're looking for ultimate forgiveness, possibly this is going to give you that bit of help. Now, again, put that down by the golf ball. It looks very, very similar in the shape to what we've just seen in the standard one, and there's still a big footprint there. I'm going to actually put these two side by side because it doesn't look any bigger to me than the... Put these side by side. Maybe it is a fraction long. I tell you what, there's not a lot in it, to be honest, between those two. So that's why initially when I unpacked these and I took the first one, I didn't really look at the bottom of the head too much as to what model. So the Qi35, popped it down, and it was a standard one. I popped it down, I thought, oh, that's obviously the Max because it's pretty big. Pulled it up, but it wasn't. So this is still a very big footprint down there, huge in that back section. Sits again pretty square to me, which again I quite like. Ooh, that's a good shot. That looks a little bit stally in the air to me. I mentioned that spin's going to be a little bit higher there. Yeah, 2743 wasn't too bad, to be honest. So when we flip the head over now in the Max, we don't have that adjustability in that weight. We've just got a fixed section on that inertia generator that we've had in a few models there now at the back of the club. So that lump of weight at the back, again, obviously pulling that CG down, but very much to the back of the head. That is obviously what's going to give it that 10K sort of number and that forgiveness level. And there's me testing that straight away. That was horrible, low, heely strike. I know I'm going to lose a little bit on that because it'll always spin up a little bit more. That's just a poor strike from me. But in terms of an accuracy, that's done really well. I expected that probably to cut off to the right a little bit more from that strike, but it hasn't done. There you go, and straight away there, move it away from the heel and gets it out in that toe. Properly tested this Max driver now, but that has gone bullet straight. Very straight, totally different launch, different spin because you hit the toe, it pulls the spin away a little bit, and that's a good miss hit. Now going back to the neck sleeve here, it hasn't changed at all. Okay, so we've got the normal TaylorMade neck sleeve here, so you've got previous models of TaylorMade, that shaft and adapter will work into the Qi35. So ability to move the loft up a couple of degrees, ability to move it down. We've also got light angle adjustments. It's a nice strike, just a little bit up the left. Just looks a bit stally in the air to me with that particular, maybe that weight in the back. Again, that spin might just get a little bit up. Yeah, no, it's not too bad actually, 2.8, but I think it's just in that slightly higher bracket there, as you're going to expect with that Max product. But forgiveness is definitely the theme with that, and I've just tested that quite nice on a few of those hits. Okay, and finally moving into the Qi35 LS. So LS obviously stands for low spin, so obviously trying to reduce spin as it's saying. Now, totally different look, and this for me is the nicer shape head, just for my personal preference. A little bit more of a squat head in comparison to the other two we've just sort of seen. So again, it's very typical sort of TaylorMade shaping in the head. Again, beautiful carbon effect. We've got that polished section in the inside that we've seen on the others, but again, sits incredibly square, really good looking driver. Let's get this one here. Okay, that's a good strike. A little bit of a cut on that, which I don't mind at all. Felt a little bit of a better strike than maybe what I saw on Trackman there. Showing it a little bit low. 12 launch is good. 2.7 on the spin. 294, decent numbers. Now, obviously more compact head, as you're going to expect. We've got 3 movable weights now in the LS, so more adjustability. We've got 2 3-gram weights, and then we've got 1 13-gram weight. I've currently got the 13-gram weight in the back of the head and the 2 3s at the front. So obviously that's pulling that CG, making it into its most forgiving as you can for this particular driver. And I'm going to have a little tweak of that straight away there, because I want to see that spin maybe a little bit lower for me. If I can get that launch at 12, 13, which sometimes is difficult for me, but if I can get it around that launch area, but then get that spin low, I know I'm going to unlock a little bit more yardage. Okay, so there we go. Move the 13-gram weight now forward into the toe, so what they are calling as a fade setting. So TaylorMade is saying when you put it in that point there, that's giving it the most lowest forward CG location you can in this particular head. Let's see if that changes anything. That's a good strike. Yeah, definitely looks a flatter flight, does that. That's a good ball speed. Launch a little bit lower, spin a little bit lower. Yeah, you can sort of see that just a little bit more penetrating on its actual flight, coming out a touch lower with a little bit lower on that spin. It's a little bit of left to right on it, but hasn't spun up left to right. Again, interested to see spin, yeah, so there you go. A bit of an aggressive left to right shape on that, to be honest. I mean, maybe that weight a little bit more on that toe, that fade is just edging a little bit more that way. But typically when you see that shape, you tend to see that high, spinny, weaky one, don't you? That hasn't done that at all. So that forward CG is just helping me a little bit control that spin. Touch up the left. That's my little reaction to that slight right miss before. Low in the face. And that's a good spin, again, for that low strike. So definitely that forward CG just helping to reduce that spin a little bit. So if you're a little bit more of a high spin player, that could be a really good option to have also. Okay, so there's the 3 heads hit. There is a 4th head, remember, which is the Max Lite. Post comments down below. Let me know your thought. Qi35 lineup, and hopefully we'll catch you all very soon.